Hey everybody, good Tuesday evening. Welcome in. Hopefully we're having a good one out there. Tonight's the big night, the calm before the storm, the kind of like the old, what is it, the poem? Gosh, I can't remember now. Don't tell me. The night before Christmas, that's the one. It has been one heck of a couple of days, so if I just say stupid things, you'll have to forgive me. But gonna have a lot to talk about tonight. We're gonna break down the latest model guidance, give you an update on those snow totals, ice totals, all the good stuff. Gonna put you in the loop here. So everyone let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. And let me know where you're watching from as well. And by the way, we do have a special guest speaker tonight who I'll be bringing on here in just a moment. But definitely let me know where you're all watching from and that you can hear me. All right, let's read some chats here. See where we got some folks watching from. And hello, everyone. Everyone said hello in the chat. Hello, welcome in. Great to see all of you. Durham, North Carolina, watching. We got some Lake Norman folks, some folks in Virginia, Waxhaw. Got a couple Charlotte folks in here. Mint Hill, so yeah, more Charlotte suburbs there. Unionville, North Carolina. Southern Pines, North Carolina. Gastonia, North Carolina. A lot of North Carolina in here, which makes sense, I reckon. By the way, for anyone who's just joining us and doesn't know, I am recording from Charlotte, North Carolina. So this is right in my backyard here, everything that we're going to talk about tonight. And again, we're going to break it down for you. We're going to give you the latest model guidance. Let me know where you're watching from, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Also, go ahead right here at the beginning and hit the like button on the stream. That helps it reach more people. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, whether you're watching it live or not. We're getting very close to 40,000, a number that I never would have really thought was possible, but somehow is looking like it could happen anytime now. So definitely go ahead and join us if you haven't. And I want to say thank you to all of our channel members. Thank you to everyone who joined yesterday. We had a couple folks join during last night's live. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, which comes with cool, exciting perks, then you can hit that join button next to the subscribe button. And you can have your name featured here as well if you are tier 2 or 3. All right. Yeah, so a lot of folks watching. I guess now's as good a time as any to go ahead and bring in my guests. So joining me tonight, I have once again Brady, BGWX. Those of you who have been here a couple times now over the past weeks will probably have joined a stream with Brady. He is from the Northeast and a real whiz when it comes to breaking down these things. Winter storms is what I mean by these things, especially in the upper levels. So we're going to use some upper level maps tonight, talk about why what's happening above our head is important for what's going to happen at the surface and how there's kind of some differences in some of the models in the upper levels and how that could produce some surprise areas of snow and some areas of disappointment as well come tomorrow. So Brady, thanks for joining me. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I hate how you make me out to be some whiz. I'm just a regular person, but I appreciate the hype up as always, Gerald. But yeah, I'm just excited here. We got another opportunity for winter weather. For those that don't know, again, my name is Brady. My channel BGWX. I just put in the link in the chat. You all really love meteorology, love the breakdowns of that, especially Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, but really all along the Eastern Seaboard. I try to break it down as good as I can. We go in depth. We typically do a lot of late night live streams and YouTube Premiere. So for those that kind of like to interact and want your questions answered, because there's too many people on here to Gerald to answer all your questions. So that's what I like to do. So I appreciate you having me on again.
Yeah, Brady's going to help me tonight to kind of mod this and answer some questions. Also, thank you, Bonnie, for the stickers. Everyone, Bonnie put 2 little Gerald Aurora pictures in there. Again, if you want access to those emojis and stickers, become a channel member. So glad to see that that is working, and we've got some stickers there. So that's super cool, Bonnie. Appreciate you putting in the chat. So again, everyone, looks like a lot of folks watching from a lot of different states, a lot of North Carolina in here, and that makes sense given that tomorrow's the big day, but we've already got snow on going into Arkansas, Kentucky, down into Missouri, back towards portions of Tennessee, Southern Illinois, and all of this moving eastbound. By tomorrow, again, we'll get into the Carolinas, and that's when we could see, I think, some pretty good snowfall totals, Brady. I've already got my forecast, which I'll show you my specialized forecast map I made here later on in the stream. I think someone's going to get close to, if not crack double digits, foot of snow not out of the question, somewhere into Virginia and North Carolina, including blizzard-like conditions going to be something that we need to watch out for. All right, so
Indeed. Go ahead.
super chat from Candell Wilson. For anyone who doesn't know, Candell is in a lot of my meteorology classes. So, Candell, thanks for tuning in. I'll even heart your super chat there. I appreciate you using some of that tuition money on the stream. Is Charlotte going to experience a disappointment or excitement? A really tough forecast in Charlotte, and we're going to talk about Charlotte throughout the stream. My forecast for Charlotte right now is about an inch. Is kind of what my gut tells me. But Brady and I will dive into those maps. By the way, if you have any super chats, get priority on questions being answered. Obviously, we'll try to answer everything we can, whether you have a super chat or not. But definitely, no matter what, we will answer those. And another little fun thing, I'll probably be storm chasing this thing tomorrow. So tune in again tomorrow for more live streams on the road in the conditions, potentially seeing some of that snow coming down live. If you watched my Myrtle Beach stream whenever I did that, when we had the big snowstorm down there, going to be pretty similar to that, but this time targeting somewhere up into North Carolina or Virginia. I'll talk about where that could be in the stream. All right, Brady, got a lot of folks in here. You think we should go ahead and just start kind of diving on into it?
I'm ready. Anytime we got snow, Gerald, I'm fired up to get going here. So we're on your clock here, baby. How we doing?
Yeah, we definitely are on my clock, and another night with more homework I have to get done. So we'll try to keep this one under 2 hours, but I got about 720 or so people in here. So thank you everyone for joining. Again, if you're just getting in here, go ahead, hit the like button, get the stream out to more people, share it on social media, let folks know we're live and giving them the latest information with the latest models, and then subscribe if you haven't already. But let's go ahead and start diving into the data with all of that said. So we've got some of that snow already. Here's our storm cranking. We've got kind of nice little snow, sleet, icy mess there into Little Rock as we speak. We've got snow into Kentucky, Tennessee, all of it moving eastbound. And I think the key here, Brady, is you can see it on satellite pretty well as well if we take a look at things. We've got this big trough dipping back down into Mexico. This is kind of our lifting mechanism. Number one thing you need for any sort of storm in meteorology is some sort of lift. And troughs are kind of these basically what looks like a trough on the map here. You kind of see where all of the clouds and everything are dipping on down. It's a pocket of cold air. That's our lifting mechanism. Anytime you're on kind of the right-hand side of these things, this is an area that we refer to as divergence. Basically, it's just where the air wants to rise. It's where storms like to form. It's where low pressure deepens. And during the winter time, when you've got cold air as well, it's where you can get some big-time winter weather. That's exactly what's happening now, is all of this troughing and energy is going to push east. And the complicated part of this forecast, Brady, and I'll let you talk about it a little bit, is this is not a kind of clear and simple one piece of energy. This is going to do what we call phase. It's going to basically give up on itself in one area and rebuild somewhere else, at least at the surface. Now, in the upper levels, there's a big upper level low kind of driving this thing. But Brady, you want to talk a little bit about that? And I can go ahead and switch to another map if you got one that you want me to
You can
pull up
keep it right
and talk
here. This
about.
will actually, Gerald, this works perfectly. You can still
Awesome.
highlight everything on here. If you highlight first, what I would like to notice is notice that confluence, Gerald. You see that to the north there? That is the one thing that's probably preventing us right now from being able to really drive this thing completely up the coast, and it's probably why some disappointed folks in the Northeast were hoping for more. But it's also what kind of is going to allow the Carolinas into potentially Virginia here to cash in a little bit more. So that confluence to the north, you can see holding it, but then you see that big swing like Gerald was talking about. There's that trough there in the Southwest U.S., and you can see that overrunning precip then out ahead as well. So what that's allowing to do is we're starting to see that stream interaction. You can see that precipitation starting to get going here in the southern plains, currently getting into their big snowstorm as well. It's the same system, but look at that Gulf moisture starting to get going here. We're starting to see a little bit of stream interaction here, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take still, a little while until tomorrow night into Thursday for this to really get going. And then what's going to happen here is now, Gerald, we can kind of flip it to 500 millibar Vort, and we can kind of show what's going to happen here. But I think that was a really good demonstration at the upper levels. And here at 500 millibar, you can see now we're just looking at, instead of the water vapor, is the vorticity. Just, folks, it's just the upper level energy. That's all it is. That's all we're looking at here. It's, to put it simply. And then look at those two pieces. This is what we're watching here. These are going to come together. And I think, Gerald, one of the big questions that I have with this, and you can kind of speak on it a little bit right after this, is, how much does that trough able to sink? Because if you highlight that convection out to the southeast there as well, how much can that get out ahead in front of it early? So you have that trough, and you can kind of play it out. and I want to kind of hear your thoughts on this a little bit as well. But that trough is going to sink down, and then how much it sinks down will allow that upper level energy to get out in front, and from there we could potentially see more significant snow. If that interaction gets delayed, we likely see less snow for a lot of people. If you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I do want to quickly answer. We had a super chat, don't want to forget about here. So, Love is Everything says, how much snow for Dumfries in northern VA, please? Appreciate what you're doing. Well, appreciate the super chat. I'll start with that. Second off, it all comes back to this, like Brady and I are talking about, what's going to happen in Northern Virginia and in a lot of places, I think in the mid-Atlantic and even coastal Northeast. Let's not forget, folks up there not out of this storm. Now, parts of the Northeast really not going to get a lot, but we'll talk about it later on. I think southern Jersey, portions of Mass, out near the Cape and in Nantucket could get at least a decent winter storm out of this. Now, not the blizzard of 25 or whatever, but could be a good one. Right now, though, you can kind of see the battle we're fighting is right here. And I'll tell you, Brady, one of the things that are interesting about this storm, if you were to put just this map out there right here, this is Thursday morning and afternoon, I would think just looking at this that we would have a massive storm riding up the coast. Just looking at this. First of all, I'll kind of ask you, what are your thoughts on that? Just kind of looking at this map from the upper level standpoint.
Yeah, it's really it makes sense to an extent, but really from the upper level standpoint, from a 500 millibar standpoint, this is a really dynamic system here, and that's why you saw what you did on models a few days ago in terms of some of those really big snowfall totals. And it's just a matter. You got to remember how hard it is, everybody, to really get those historic snowstorms. They're a lot harder to come to fruition than we like to make it out to be. It takes a lot of pieces to be in the right place to get that big up the coast snowstorm, and it's looking like it's probably not going to be that, but it's still going to be a dynamic system. And it really comes down to, again, that 500 look. It really is suggestive, maybe for potentially that there could be more snow than what's being suggested for maybe southeastern Virginia, maybe central North Carolina, northern Central Carolina, into eastern Virginia. We're talking Norfolk. We're talking also southern Delmarva, I would say, as well. And then maybe as much as into southern Jersey as well. I think that will be a close call. But I think there's certainly some opportunity here because a lot of these P-type maps are not designed to be perfect, and we could see some adjustments potentially, regardless of changes in the upper level synoptic setup here, meaning the overall setup. Besides any changes, regardless of that, we could see the P-type maps, those precipitation ones, adjust a little bit more, possibly, or maybe not, and it just happens during the event. That's always a case. I'm sure you've had some of those events in the Carolinas as well before, Gerald.
Yeah, and I made a snow graphic earlier, and basically in giant bold words I put on the side of it, boom or bust. This is a classic boom or bust Carolina storm where I'll pick a city like Charlotte, for example, could get as much as 3, maybe 4 inches of snow in a best case scenario, but it's also just as realistic that not a flake falls from the sky, really, which makes it such a tough forecast. I do want to go back because back to the question about Northern Virginia from that super chat. Same thing there. It's one of those things where this could be absolutely nothing if this energy phases one way, but there's another way where if we kind of move the map ahead a little bit here, right into here in Northern Virginia, you see how you kind of get some of this back interaction between the two, some of that vorticity connecting. In case like that, you could maybe get a band of snow that moves through areas like DC, Fredericksburg, potentially as far north and inland as Boston, or not Boston, Baltimore rather. That could drop a little bit of snow. So it's just such a tough forecast, and we'll get to the individual snowfall totals in a moment, but I think Brady made a very good point, just how dynamic the storm system is. That's what's making it such a difficult forecast for a lot of folks. Even Raleigh, I think is going to get a big storm out of it. The question will be, is it a big snowstorm or a big snow, sleet, ice storm? Same thing for Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Lots going to fall from the sky. Is it going to be snow, sleet, freezing rain? And that's what we'll kind of try to dive on into. Brady, I did want to go back 1 second. Something I completely forgot to mention and we kind of glossed over was our current alerts out there. So everyone go ahead, remind me where you're watching from. We've got about 1,000 people in here right now. So let's try to get another check on where everyone is. And we'll kind of talk about some of these alerts before we move on to the next thing. Also want to go back while y'all are doing that. I'm going to read some of these super chats. Chris says, what about Wake Forest close to Franklin County line? So I'm assuming you mean Wake Forest, North Carolina. And do you mean the city of Wake Forest is another question I would ask, or Wake Forest University? Because those are two separate things in North Carolina. But let me check for you on I'm assuming you probably mean We're
Probably the
talking
border
Franklin
of
County.
Lake and Franklin, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so probably out near Raleigh, I guess is the one they're referring to. So that Wake Forest is going to be a tough one. Again, you're right on that dividing line. I think we're going to get a lot of precipitation in that region. The Triangle in general, I think, is going to get a good band of something. Now, the northern side, up towards Durham, up towards the Virginia line, I think we could see 3 to 6 inches of snow. Start getting into Raleigh itself, I've got 2 to 4 of a snow, sleet, kind of icy mess. Wake Forest, I would probably include in that 2 to 4 range of kind of a little bit of everything. So a couple other super chats here. Let me go back up and find them. Also, everyone go ahead, like the stream if you haven't already and you're just joining us. RJ says, proud of you and your work, UNCC class in 1979. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Definitely, we've got a great alumni network out here in Charlotte. A lot of folks went to UNC Charlotte that you don't realize how many people went here, but I always run into alumni. And it's honestly a school I didn't even know existed until like a couple of years ago, right before I got here. So another super chat says, thanks for doing this. Have a coffee on me. Well, I appreciate that. Tomorrow morning, I'll get a coffee as I hit the road and look at the little GM sticker. Love it. Also, thanks for becoming a member. We appreciate that so much. So Brady, a lot of people commenting a lot of things. You want to tell us a little bit on where people are watching from as you're kind of browsing through the chat?
We have a lot. We actually have a report from Northwest Arkansas. I saw roughly 3 inches from our man Don out there. So shout out Don. We have a good amount of Southwest Virginia. We have a lot of North Carolina. We have Virginia Beach. We have Suffolk. We got Granville County. We got Lake Norman, Charlotte, Granville County, little Central Ohio, little Augusta, Georgia, Rocky Mount, Fayetteville, Greenville, North Carolina. Looks like a good amount of North Carolina and Virginia people in here right now. I am from Massachusetts, so I don't know. I doubt we're gonna have too many people from there tonight, but
I think they're a little mad at us. So.
Massachusetts, or New England, if anybody's up from there. So that's where we got everybody from in the chat right now. A little Huntsville, Alabama too. So we got a good mix here, Gerald.
Nice. And also, I will go ahead and I've got all these people in here. Go ahead, tag us on Twitter. Follow both of us on Twitter with your reports. We'll show them live on stream. If you're getting snow out there right now, into the parts of the country that are seeing it, let us know. Tag us on Twitter at GMingle, at I guess Brady WX is what yours is, right, Brady? I think.
Yep, Brady BGWX or just BGWX. Yep.
Yeah, gotcha. On the X machine or Twitter, or even you can find us probably, at least you can find me on Instagram or Facebook as well. We'll go ahead and show your stuff live on stream, and also follow us on those platforms for up-to-date info as we go through tomorrow as well. We'll definitely keep you in the loop as we get every new model run. And Brady, I'm assuming we'll probably go long enough tonight, at least I did last night, just from, I know me and you geek out and talk a lot, so we'll probably get to at least the Her model running. I started 30 minutes later tonight as well, so we'd have enough time to kind of stall until that starts running at about 8:30 or so. So we'll see if we get there. But hopefully we can break down some data as it rolls in during the stream. And then are you going to be live tonight as well, Brady, after this?
We'll very likely be live again tonight, probably around 11:30ish for our late night gang that likes to follow the OZ models. We'll be breaking that down. Also, I have some thoughts for anybody really along the Eastern Seaboard. Winter's probably not done yet for especially Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and maybe even the Southeast. So I'll have a couple thoughts on some long range stuff as well towards the end of the stream for those that want to come on in.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, subscribe to Brady's channel. That is linked in the description and pinned in the chat. All right, looks like a couple more super chats. Shannon with a super chat. Thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate that. By the way, if you've got a super chat, ask a question with it, and we'll answer it for you. It's the fun of live streams. Angela says, keep up the good work. Send some snow to Charlotte. Well, Angela, I'll try my best. I do think Charlotte will get something out of this. It might not be a blockbuster once-in-a-lifetime event, but I think Charlotte will at least get some flakes to fly at the least. All right, let's take a look at this map again. I did want to mention the watches and warnings. So we've got winter storm warnings in effect for much of Kentucky, even kind of a chunk of Tennessee here. All of the pink boxes are winter storm warnings. The purple boxes, winter weather advisories. And gosh, I tell you, they just hate Chattanooga. I don't know what it is about Chattanooga. It's like it never snows there. You've got winter weather advisories on every side of Chattanooga, except for the city itself, it looks like. But winter weather advisories also now being issued down into portions of South Carolina, northern Horry County, back up towards Marion, Lumberton, North Carolina, and then winter storm warnings for portions of the I-95. I think Rocky Mount up to Elizabeth City, back towards Raleigh, up into southeastern Virginia, and even the southern Chesapeake. That's going to be the bullseye out of this one. I think that's where we're going to see some of the highest snowfall totals, and then some of the highest ice totals south of there. Wouldn't be surprised to see maybe an upgrade to an ice storm warning for someone in North Carolina, specifically kind of down there towards the Sandhills, even a little bit closer towards like Greenville, North Carolina. That area could run into big ice concerns. So we'll be watching that as well. But that's kind of our current alert map. Brady, was there, you wanted to look at the upper levels as well, right? We've got those pulled up here.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know what this is basically just, so we talked about 500, and then if you go a little higher up in the atmosphere, this is 250 millibars, pretty simply. So it's just higher up in the atmosphere, up closer to where your planes fly. And so when we look at this, we're looking at typically, we look for that, that double jet look, that, that configuration, Gerald, right? That classic look we're looking at where we have that, to put it simply, when one side of the jet stream and the other side of the jet stream start working vertical, the more vertical we work, the more precipitation and likely dynamic of a system we're going to work, to put it very simply for those that aren't sure what we're looking at. And as Gerald plays this out here, you notice, look what starts happening is that jet streak to the north there starts getting going. And you'll see those strong winds start developing, and you start seeing that verticalness, right, of the upper level winds work it. What a big word I use there, not even a word, but it starts working further north here. And what that's going to allow is for lift, basically, to continue to allow heavier precipitation to work northward. And I think there's an opportunity here, suggesting with this map as well, for maybe some heavier precipitation than maybe what some of the models are showing, even potentially, and possibly a further extent northern wise to the precip shield as well, potentially based on the upper level 500 millibar look and the 250 millibar jet look as well. Because, right, Gerald, we had that initial overrunning event here, and that's going to allow precip to get going eventually. And then once it gets wrapped up here and we start seeing this dynamic nature of the system get going, that's when that's going to start to get enhanced, and that's when our heavy snowfall rates kick in. So we're talking about Delmarva, we're talking about maybe southern Jersey. I'd keep a close eye on that. We're talking about southern Maryland. We're going to be talking about eastern Virginia, north central Carolina into northeastern Carolina. All these places I'm on high alert watch for potential heavy snow. Even if you were to start as some mix potentially in some of those places, at least finish as moderate to heavy snow.
Yeah, and super chat, by the way, from Cedric, I want to mention real quick. Cedric Barclay says, will Huntsville have any weather concerns like icing? So Huntsville, like I just showed you on the last map, is under a winter weather advisory. So that means that the National Weather Service anticipates that you could very well see enough winter weather to kind of hit that criteria. I think a bit of a wintry mix is possible overnight tonight in Huntsville, especially north of the city. If you're south of the city, a little less likely. But could even accumulate to as much as an inch or so in that region. So appreciate the super chat, and thanks for the question. Wyatt also with the super chat says, what are your thoughts of Great Bend, Kansas getting 9 inches of snow with the NWS, Wichita only forecasting 2 to 5? Is this storm overperforming? Well, you know what? Let's take a look at that, actually. That's a great question. So I'm assuming you're reporting that Great Bend, Kansas has gotten 9 inches of snow would be my assumption on that. Are you kind of reading that the same way, Brady? I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I thought he was asking originally, are we getting? I was like, I thought Kansas was almost done, but I think that's what he probably meant by asking that. It's
if you're asking if that's what you're going to get, then no, it's over for you. But yeah, sorry. So Great Bend, Kansas, basically as center of Kansas as you can get. Yeah, it's over, bud. Sorry. No. Kind of the same thing on this. If you back up the map a little bit, this was this afternoon. Same thing over, actually, if we do it right here, this was overnight last night into this morning. We can kind of do the same ideology here. We've got a jet streak up here, and that area of Kansas right in an area of enhanced lift. Anywhere I'm putting circles on the map, folks, that's where we've got more lift in the atmosphere just due to some of these upper level ingredients. So it very well could have been that. A little bit of upper level divergence kind of helped you out and got you some higher in snowfall totals. And I always say this with every winter storm, especially in kind of the Southeast, the Carolinas specifically, is every storm has a trick up its sleeve. The fun part is always figuring out what that trick is. And I think this storm is no different. For example, you in Kansas, you just got a big snowstorm, or maybe you were only expecting a couple of inches. I always think, or not always, because it's kind of a new event, but I think back to January, folks in Atlanta will know right around the 10th or so of January, that winter storm, you were forecasted a little bit of ice, maybe some snow mixing in, got almost half a foot of snow. So it just snowfall is one of the toughest things to forecast in meteorology because it behaves very differently than liquid, and small changes have kind of exponential impacts. For example, in the summer, half an inch to an inch of rain. If let's say your meteorologist forecasted an inch of rain and you get half an inch, you probably wouldn't know the difference. You'd say, yeah, they nailed the forecast today. You get an inch of rain versus half an inch of rain and you turn it to snow. That's a difference from half a foot to a foot of snow. Or if it's 0 to half an inch, that's 0 inches of snow to half a foot of snow. So you get the point. It just has huge ramifications. And that's one of the reasons I love forecasting winter weather. I think it's a blast. And I think, it's kind of fun to try to figure out what the missing piece of the puzzle is. And like Brady mentioned, this could be one of them, this jet streak tomorrow. Again, I'll just go over it one more time for you just with the drawing because I kind of wasn't able to explain it, or just I kind of forgot to. It's a bigger thing. An area of some enhanced lift in eastern North Carolina. And then like Brady mentioned, an area of some enhanced lift potentially up even into Jersey by tomorrow evening. Southern Jersey into the Delmarva. That's when maybe, who knows, portions of DC, Fredericksburg try to get in on the fun. So definitely some areas of enhanced lift out of this storm. And I think, Brady, we've kind of left the people waiting long enough. Let's go ahead and take a look at some down on the ground models. What do you say?
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
All right, so I think I'll cut up on the questions there as well. Also, again, folks, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the stream. We've got almost 1,500 people in here. Go ahead and get the word out. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel and Brady's channel, again, linked in the description. So let's show him some love. Obviously, he's shown that he knows what he's talking about, and he's a pretty smart guy. So let's give him some support there. Let's back it up here. This is the latest NAM, and we're going to look at two models. Brady, I didn't tell you this, but I kind of have the NAM pulled up and the high-resolution rapid refresh. I think does a good job at showing a boom and a bust potential with this storm. So we'll start with the boom potential. That's the NAM. Let's back it up to about where we're at now. And something also good to do, I think, is compare kind of what the models are initializing versus what's actually happening. So this is what the NAM says is happening right now. Everyone take a look at that. And then while you are, I will go back to radar as well. So this is the NAM right now, and I'm going to quickly switch the screen over. So give me 1 second while I pull up the current radar again and just refresh and make sure it's where we're supposed to be. And then we'll kind of compare the two, see how models are initializing. All right, so I think this is going to be pretty telling. All right, this is what radar currently looks like out here. All right, and then we'll go back to the NAM. Here's what the NAM looks like. I know it's kind of on opposite sides of the screen, but I would say, Brady, looking at the two, current radar is overdoing modeling a bit. What do you say?
Try the reflect. Can you switch it to the reflectivity though? Possibly.
Reflectivity on the radar?
The NAM. On the NAM.
Okay, the NAM. I was gonna say, I think it is on reflectivity, isn't
it?
Yeah. Let's see if I can find
that. Is I think the 1 hour rate versus reflectivity on the preset moisture. Radar, yeah.
You want radar? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's how different it's going to be, but just to compare.
Yeah, this is what it shows. So
switch it back again for the people, not for me.
Right.
Yeah, check on the Gulf moisture.
That's a little
down
bit heavier
there
down here, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, another important point here is the Gulf moisture.
Yeah, there might be some virga, but oftentimes in these events, especially overrunning too initially, models can especially HRR model, but can tend to underdo the precip out ahead initially. And again, the biggest thing that I would be watching on radar overnight tonight into tomorrow morning is how much of that precip early on can sink south, the initial batch up there by Missouri and Arkansas and up in the Mid-South. And then how much can that Gulf moisture be able to get out ahead of our system? Because that will then allow for a cleaner phase, possibly an earlier phase. And it's better for everybody because that means you get more snow further south earlier into the Carolinas, and you also get heavier snow further north as well. So it's really a win-win for everybody here. How much of that Gulf moisture can really get out ahead of that main batch of precip? To put it simply, like we were looking at 500 millibars. And the more we can see that happen, the more snow for, I think, pretty much everybody in this event. That's what I will be watching upcoming here.
Yeah, that's very good stuff. Also, I'm kind of reading through here. I do want to let you folks know currently Air Force hurricane hunters are actually gathering data over the Gulf. So they're flying through these storms out here, or at least around them, to get some extra info for what's happening out there right now. So hypothetically, that should get ingested into the zero Z models. So when the HER starts rolling in here soon, we might get some of that new data. So that's exciting. That's exciting stuff, and that'll definitely help get a better handle on things. I did have a super chat. I think two of them even, or might have, yeah, it was two of them. Cassie, thank you for the super chat. That's a pretty big one, so thank you so much. What time do you expect it to start in the foothills, and will it be all snow? Wish it was a blizzard, but we take what we can get. And yeah, that's the truth. We really do take what we can get around here. Been one of those weird winters in the Carolinas. Charlotte has had about 4 or so winter storms. And well, I say winter storms, winter weather events, and we've still only managed somehow like an inch of snow this year. I don't know why or what. It's just like every storm is here, but also not here at the same time. For the foothills, though, I'll go ahead and give everyone kind of a sneak peek of the NAM. Let me move this back up. This is kind of start time for the foothills, depending on where you are. Now, the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia, probably tomorrow morning, 8, 9 a.m., and then you can kind of see some of that precip try to build into the foothills by the afternoon. But I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we get something in the morning. So watch out for maybe a quick early batch of something. Now, it might not hit the ground. We might run into some Virga problems in the morning, but it really could start as early as daybreak. But chances getting higher and higher throughout the day, really into all the Carolinas, the foothills included. The Engage says, what are your thoughts on Trenton, Tennessee? Brady, you know where Trenton, Tennessee is?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can tell you while you answer another question.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, folks, we've got about 1,600 people in here, so let's see if we can get to 2K. Best way to do that is by hitting the like button. Everyone smash it, and go ahead, comment again. Let me know where you're watching from. Obviously, we got Gage watching in Trenton, Tennessee, and we're getting to the Carolinas now, so that's next up. If you're watching in North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, let me know, and let me know what part of each state. Again, we're going to try to get some of these areas. We'll try to name some of the small little towns as well out of this. Savannah watching from Eden, North Carolina. Let's check in on Eden, North Carolina. Again, I could probably find where exactly that is.
Our man in Trenton, Tennessee, is actually just where we were doing the severe weather coverage the other night by out there in north of Memphis. So that's where he is. He's probably about 45 an hour north of Memphis, maybe roughly.
Okay,
Western
awesome.
Tennessee.
So going to be mainly snow event. Going to crank up really this evening, Gage. You can kind of see it start to work in here into Tennessee. This is 2 a.m., probably about the peak of the storm during the overnight. Also, Brady, I just turned your volume up a little bit, so hopefully that'll do something.
Thank
we'll
you.
see. Sorry, I didn't see that.
No, them in the chat. They were the ones letting us know. So
okay, awesome. Well, yeah, appreciate that. So yeah, a lot of folks watching from North Carolina here. That's next stop on the map. All right, so here we go. This evening, storm kind of working into Tennessee, northern Mississippi, Alabama. Pause it here. I had a question about Huntsville earlier. Here's tomorrow morning, right around daybreak, 7 a.m. I think a good little shield of snow down into Knoxville, Nashville, and maybe as far south as Huntsville. You can see this would kind of be one of those marginal setups where you're right on that snow, ice, rain line. So you could be kind of fighting a battle there. Might struggle to stick to things, but should at least begin to mix in a little bit of winter weather in that area of northern Alabama. Now, we'll move it further ahead into time, and this is when things get kind of interesting. So, Brady, this is 10 a.m., and my folks in North Carolina are going to be looking at this and thinking, what is happening? And I can almost guarantee, I said this on the stream last night, what's going to happen tomorrow is I'm going to wake up, I'm going to make the YouTube video, I'm going to go on my phone, and I'm going to see all sorts of comments, and people are going to tag me saying, where's this winter storm? Where's it at? It's not happening. Folks, this is that phasing time frame. This is when our upper level energy, it's kind of back up over this way, even kind of further off the map, is trying to help out some instability along the coast and trying to help get this low pressure down in the Gulf to reform off the Carolina coast. So there's going to be a gap in the moisture, and that's what's going to be so tough to forecast about this storm. That's why it's boom or bust. Somebody's going to get boom if this, new low pressure forms in a place that drops big precip back on you. You'll get the boom. If you're just to kind of the subsidence side of that, then you're gonna unfortunately get kind of screwed. And unfortunately, I think the most likely place for that to happen, kind of the screw zone, if you will, is right into this area, specifically back out into the Piedmont and foothills of North Carolina. The further west you go, the worse you are off. I think really if you're east to 77, then you should get enough precip for this to be notable. If you're west of 77, the forecast gets tough. Kind of the meteorology behind what's happening is all this snow and all the wind creating it basically back towards Tennessee is hitting the Apps, hitting the Appalachia chain, and then sinking back down the other side. And that sinking adiabatically dries the air. Basically, it's just, it's kind of eating the moisture. In fact, the mountains in California, or not the mountains, but the mountains kind of what I was going to say, though, is you'll often hear the Chinook winds. It's actually a native term for snow eaters. So mountains oftentimes eat kind of the snow, and the Southeast is no stranger to it. But what happens then is you kind of get this new low pressure to develop, and then notice how it blossoms again. This is when that energy transfer begins. You can see this kind of troughing here along the coast, classic kind of Carolina coastal trough. And that new area of low pressure just kind of brings the boom. Now, the question is, though, how big of a boom does it bring? Does all this get thrown back as far as Charlotte and even upstate South Carolina? Or does it only really get into Southeast Virginia, Raleigh, kind of eastern North Carolina? I think in the circle I have on your map here, that's guaranteed to get some winter weather. I'll extend it back a little bit. This is when things get a little bit tougher, is in that yellow area. The good news for folks in the Piedmont is Thursday morning, a little secondary surprise could come and save you. If you don't get snow on Wednesday, and that's very possible. Again, I could see many scenarios where tomorrow, all Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools closed. I'm off of school tomorrow, and not a flake flies. And everyone's going to say, wow, they really screwed the forecast. And then they cancel again on Thursday, and everyone's wondering, well, why is that? Nothing fell. A second piece of energy Thursday morning could bring snow to folks. They don't really get a lot of it, if any of it, Wednesday. So don't lose all hope tomorrow if you don't get snow. And I'll kind of zoom ahead to give you the spoiler alert on it. Here it comes. Look at the second piece of energy. I mean, that's pretty impressive little band of snow. That could drop a whole inch or two on its own even as that works through Thursday morning and afternoon. And check it out, even places as far south as maybe Columbia try to get in on some little upper level energy snow fun out of that one. But Brady, again, we've been talking about it a lot, but go ahead and just try to remind the folks how important the connection of this energy is and how kind of you could get the boom or doom because of it.
Yeah, it's pretty critical, and it's also going to define, I think, another point too is how much initial mix there's going to be across eastern into northeastern Carolina and across southeastern, especially into central Carolina. So it's especially OBX, and then as we start, approaching, Nash, Wilson, Johnston, Wake, some of those counties there, you could flirt potentially with the mix, and I wouldn't be surprised if you held on to it for a little bit longer as well. Because like Gerald's saying, with that interaction there, it's very fickle, meaning it's pretty volatile. And small changes in models will really struggle with the exact interaction of a phase, always, no matter what system. This is a system that's going to phase, even if more delayed than maybe thought a few days ago and not as clean, there is going to be a phase. And models really struggle to pick up on it. So really in either direction, that sleet line could hold on longer, but even if it does, you'll probably have a better thump on the backside, if I had to guess. And if it doesn't, it maybe won't be as much snow, it won't be as heavy, but you'll start all snow initially, potentially for longer, because that warm air isn't going to work as north as fast. It kind of give a little breakdown there for our folks in the Carolinas. But also, if you were to see that sleet line advance more northward initially, then that would probably allow somewhere like towards central Carolina, maybe more Chatham County, Randolph, out places out there, Gerald, to maybe cash in on some more snow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of those were very good points. And I'm reading some comments here. Some folks kind of, whenever I mention this being the bust zone, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get snow. That just means that your forecast is less likely to get it than out here. Now, this model, the NAM, still gets you snow. This is kind of the boom solution. And even it kind of gets snow all the way back towards Gastonia, Lincolnton, Hickory. Heck, tries to get snow as far south and east as Spartanburg, Greenville, Travelers Rest. And you can see just a nice shield of snow on this model. But then you'll notice it kind of clears out. It keeps snowing pretty good in northeast North Carolina, southeast Virginia. But it's only about an hour or two of kind of moderate snow there in Charlotte, Gastonia, and then up north towards Mooresville, Lake Norman up 85 towards Concord, Kannapolis. And I'll tell you, for really local folks there in the Carolinas, I think here in kind of the Charlotte area at least, it's going to be a very sharp gradient. I think Concord, Kannapolis, it's one of those storms where you folks could get 2 inches of snow, and then kind of, maybe not Matthews, but Mint Hill back out, especially closer towards the airport, might only get a coating, even if that. It's just one of those tough setups where the sharpest gradient is right along the one of the most highly populated areas. So that makes it tough. Also, up here into Southern Virginia, into the Delmarva, specifically kind of the Southern Chesapeake here, back out towards, what do we call this little bit of Maryland that hangs out here? What is this called, Brady? Kind of south of Delaware. What, do we know?
I forget off the top of my head. I should know.
Yeah. I think it's got a name. But if you're in this little yellow circle I drew, that area, another area that could really get boom out of this, because again, you're not going to deal with mixing issues, I don't think, in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, kind of in this circle here. But you start getting back down south, like Brady said, towards Elizabeth City, Greenville, Raleigh. That's where you could get very heavy rates, but the question will be, is that heavy snowfall rates, heavy sleet rates, heavy freezing rain rates? And then really once you get down here towards the Sandhills, this is where we could see, I think, a pretty good little icing event out of this one. Now, the NAM pulls the storm away. Again, a nice winter storm. Heavy snow for multiple hours there in southeast VA, northeast North Carolina. Then a little bit of a lull overnight tomorrow. This is about midnight, seeing some of those more quiet conditions as the storm pulls away. But then that upper level energy moves through and brings a whole nother kind of complicated setup. So you think tomorrow's complicated, and it is. Then you get to the next day, and it's a whole nother kind of snowfall forecast, arguably, or not arguably, just from a completely different piece of energy. And I mean, the NAM really bullish here. In fact, Brady, let's do one of your classic favorite things, which is taking a sounding and kind of explain this a little bit. This is a sounding in that snow. Now, not the heaviest snow I've ever seen, but the DGZ, or the Dendritic Growth Zone right here, is saturated. So this would at least be some snow kind of making it to the ground there, even if our omega values are not very high. Brady, you want to talk a little bit about this sounding? I know you're pretty good at that sort of thing.
Yeah, so that's again part of, so since we're not going to have as clean of a phase, and also last, I think you were right, Eastern Shore, Virginia, they were talking about the Chesapeake Bay area. So, we were on it. People thought we were talking about Delmarva. We weren't, but to answer our last part. But yes, this is, that's a sounding for snow, absolutely. Not heavy snow whatsoever, because not a lot of lift, but gotta lower your Dendritic Growth Zone here. That's very low for the Carolinas, especially too. A lot of that cold air aloft working in, as you can see, very dry in the upper levels. But you're going to be well saturated there from the Dendritic Growth Zone, which, Gerald, if you can highlight, is that minus 20 degree line down to that minus 10 degree line. And for those that, like looking at these soundings potentially, you can go highlight it yourself, really. Your Dendritic Growth Zone is from about minus 20 to minus 10. And that allows you to kind of look at, you want to be well saturated. You want lift in that little area over where it says DGZ, that's your Dendritic Growth Zone. And that can allow you to be able to pick up, the more lift there is, the more you see those bars and the pretty colors, as we like to maybe call them, Gerald, that will allow for some of that heavier snow to kind of be able to accumulate. But again, upper level energy, remember we were looking at 500, still has to come through. So certainly not even into the Carolinas, but also up into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. That's where I think some models could be underestimating some of that precipitation as well.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff there. So that's the NAM. You can kind of see the two-parter to this event. Let's switch it to the HRRR now. This is the kind of bus scenario. I think the NAM is very realistic. That could be how this goes. Now, this is when I talked about kind of the screw zone there. Here's the HRRR, and watch what happens on the HRRR. Here's Wednesday morning. You can see I had a question about the foothills earlier. HRRR does get a good little band of initial snow, even into Hickory, back down towards Brevard, Hendersonville, up towards the Triad. Doesn't quite get to Charlotte, but just north of Charlotte, up 77, Statesville, Mooresville, Huntersville, that area, up towards Lake Norman. Could see a little bit of snow in the morning out of an event like that. And then the phasing happens, but it happens so far away that Charlotte is kind of right in the middle of that, where the energy isn't quite connected. So we don't really get much. Now, again, Virginia getting good snow on this, northeast North Carolina getting good snow, heck, even West Virginia, a state we haven't really mentioned much. And then you can see it just kind of builds over eastern North Carolina, and that band of snow, it's still there on the model. It's just not nearly as amped. The NAM had it almost all the way back out to here. The HRRR only kind of this little quadrant of what the NAM had. So you can definitely see that's the difference between the two. And the reason they have it is different interaction of that upper level energy that's kind of making this happen or phase or create the snow in a little bit of a different way. And then the storm cranks up, pulls offshore. And one thing the HRRR does show is the same little back end energy here come Thursday morning. So both models now showing an area of some pretty good snow after the main storm, working through North Carolina, Virginia, and potentially even kind of the northern half of South Carolina. Could clip the upstate, maybe clip the Midlands, specifically the northern Midlands of South Carolina, maybe down into the PD here, and then tries to even get some flurries as far south and east as Myrtle Beach and the Outer Banks before finally winding down Thursday afternoon. I do want to see how far are we from. Okay, so the new HRRR is actually running right now, so we'll be able to analyze that live on stream. So everybody who is excited that the new HRRR is running and hoping for big snow, leave a comment, leave a chat, whatever you want to call it. Let us know if you want to see big snow on this run of the high resolution rapid refresh. Here it is, rolling in. This is as far out as it goes right now. Looking at it, we can look at it from a run ago. A couple runs ago. Let's kind of look at the trend. So your screen's going to flash a little bit here for a second, everybody. So just ignore it. Here's the trend on the HRRR. Not a massive trend. A little bit further north with the precip, though, in North Georgia there. You kind of noticed that, Brady?
Yeah, I was looking at before you even brought it up from 18Z. Itself, it's a little beefier. I'd say it's a little beefier initially. I was actually looking at 500 millibars too. I got the weather bell that you don't get on tidbits, but
right.
Little too early out to see exactly how it's going to specifically play out. But again, it's kind of highlighting that idea of, that warm nose initially could be further north, and that might prevent some of those snow totals across some of those eastern Carolina areas, especially just west of OBX. But I would still lean to say that even if that were to happen, that on the backside you'd still be able to make out okay with some snow, possibly several inches even, depending on where exactly you're at. So I think there's still an opportunity, even if that warm nose does advance more north initially, to be able to make out well. And also, if you do get sleet, measure it. It does count, believe it or not. It's snow sleet total. So for a lot of people, when it sleets, they stop measuring or they don't measure. It does count to your snowfall total, believe it or not. So always include it in your measurement, and you can clear wherever you're measuring every 6 to 8 hours. Little tidbit there.
Very, very true. So again, that's running right now. I do want to show you this. This is, what time is this? So this is for tomorrow at 2 p.m. This is the 18Z run of the HRRR. So this is the run from this afternoon. Kind of take a picture of it in your mind, look at it, kind of see where the snow and the ice and the rain is. Let's switch it to the newest run at the exact same time, and notice how much beefier it looks. See how it starts getting that band of snow back down towards the Charlotte area, Wadesboro. That'll be key. Trend closer to the NAM. That's a good sign for folks who want snow. Definitely looks better on getting this precip shield shifted back west a little bit towards Charlotte, and that would help Charlotte get maybe to an inch or two of snow. Definitely something watching in the models here. Even gets mostly snow in the triangle here. Still an icy mess kind of in Greenville, North Carolina. Rain mainly for Wilmington. Snow in Raleigh on this. Not a lot of snow, but some snow in Greensboro. Maybe about an inch worth on that so far. But we'll let that keep running a little bit. Let's take a look now at some snowfall total potential. And definitely something I think a lot of folks are going to be in the mood to look at. All right, reading a couple things here. All right, so what you see next to me, this is the forecast from the National Weather Service. I did want to quickly mention Kentucky and Tennessee overnight tonight. Good little winter storm in here. Expecting 3 to 5 inches in Kentucky. We'll say 2 to 4 here in the northern half of Tennessee. We had questions from northern Mississippi, Alabama. Not a lot, I don't think. Same thing for Chattanooga. Maybe a dusting, 2.5 an inch down that area. But you start going north, Nashville, about 2 to 3 inches. Memphis, probably an inch or two. And then up through central Kentucky, could be pretty big winners out of this one. Now let's switch it over to the Carolinas and specifically zooming in a little bit. Now, Brady, taking a look at this map. This is, again, straight from the National Weather Service. Now, this is from 1 p.m. Actually, let me see if we have an updated map. So, folks, give me 1 second to give a check here and see if we've got that. Let me go.
While Gerald does that and checks, I will say some interesting thoughts, Gerald, on Kentucky, Tennessee, northern Tennessee. I think there's an opportunity for some people to get 6+ there, and potentially for any folks living there. Not only northern Tennessee, potential dynamic cooling, heavier rates overtaking potentially some of those, some of those mixed totals potentially, but also in Kentucky, I think there's some areas where you might have to watch for as much as 6 to 9 inches potentially, because like I said, models can sometimes underdo that precip, that overrunning precip coming, especially off the Gulf of Mexico, and that could allow initially a little bit more precip here in the beginning stages of the storm for some people, some isolated spots potentially of 6 plus inches. So that was an interesting tidbit that I was watching for any of our folks living there across Kentucky, lots of most of Kentucky and northern Tennessee. Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. So this is the updated map from the National Weather Service. Going for 2 inches in Greensboro, about 2 in Raleigh, about 1.5 inches in Greenville, North Carolina. Charlotte, about 1/2 inch. Fayetteville, adusting to 1/2 inch. Hickory, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then up into Virginia Beach, the big bullseye. Back out towards Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Elizabeth City, even back into Roanoke Rapids. That's where 1/2 foot to 1 foot of snow is in the forecast from the NWS. And a fair look, about 4 inches, 4 to 5 in Richmond, about 3 or so in Charlottesville. Roanoke, about 2 to 3. Blacksburg, probably about 1 to 2 inches on that. And definitely, something to monitor there. But let's take a look at some model data and kind of compare some models. So let's go back. This is the NAM. This is the latest NAM model, and its total snowfall. This is including tomorrow and Thursday morning, kind of that secondary batch of snow. And compared to the NWS, pretty similar up here in Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina. One area of big difference I noticed is back into Charlotte. The NAM has kind of an area of 1 to 3 here. Charlotte up to Kannapolis, back out towards the Uwaris into Albemarle. NWS has only about 1/2 inch in that region. Again, it's anyone's guess and anybody's bet on how far back this precip shield gets. Does it build back into Charlotte? NWS says a little bit. The NAM says even more than a little bit and gets, about 1 inch in Uptown, about 2 inches up towards Lake Norman, and about 2, even up to 3 inches towards the Triad as you head up 85. That's the NAM. The WRAP model, also a model we use here, pretty similar looking. A little less beefy, or I guess a little skinnier. The band of snow is what I would say up here into Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina. You can kind of see that's a little bit skinnier. Also, though, notice on the WRAP, you see kind of this dip, this area of enhanced snowfall back out into the foothills, struggling for words here. It even gets kind of a dusting all the way down into South Carolina. That's the Thursday morning energy that, again, can kind of beef up your totals. So that's the good news for folks who, like I keep mentioning, might struggle tomorrow to get snow along the I-77 corridor. You could get saved Thursday morning. The WRAP shows that. This is the RDPS. This is like the mesoscale Canadian model. They're all pretty similar. You can kind of definitely see, not hard to find, that band of heavy snow shifting around a little bit per model, but definitely there on all of them. And the big question mark, again, being what happens further back towards the south and the west there. So I did want to show you this, Brady. I think this is your first time seeing this as well. This is a little forecast I came up with this afternoon. So everyone go ahead, take a second to look at it. Soak it all in, if you will. This took a whopping probably 30 minutes to put together. So hopefully you like it and you think it's nice and pretty. I know it's probably not the prettiest map you've ever seen, but straight from yours truly. And you can kind of see my thoughts. Now, I definitely agree with NWS, that 6 to 10 area. By the way, Brady, I'm going to pull you in here in a second to kind of critique my map. So don't worry, get ready, start finding something to change.
I'm ready to tear it apart, Gerald.
he's already found about 5 things he doesn't like about it. Don't worry. But definitely 6 to 10 area, I think, in here. Virginia Beach, Newport News. Elizabeth City's a tough one. Elizabeth City back into kind of areas near Rocky Mount. I think this is a 2 to 4, 6 to 10 range. I know that sounds crazy. You're thinking, how can it be 2 to 4 and 6 to 10? It could really be either or. It could be 2 to 4, or you could get 6 to 10. It's all going to depend, like Brady mentioned earlier. Do you start as sleet, freezing rain? Do you start as snow, stay as snow? Just so many different variables on such a tight corridor in here that's going to really just do a lot to the forecast and cause a lot of havoc. Now, I do have 3 to 6 back up towards Richmond. By the way, I cut off here into portions of Virginia. I didn't mean to. Consider this up here to be kind of that 3-inch range where I have the black circle. I just forgot to bring the blue and the pink up that way. But you're going to get snow there. Also in Tennessee, you're going to get snow. I just didn't include it in the map because, I didn't. So I apologize. But 1 to 3 inches I have in Charlotte up towards Salisbury, Greensboro. I think Greensboro closer to 3, Charlotte closer to 1. I've also got about 1 to 3 in the mountains. I do have this dusting to 1 inch range. This is where I think we'll probably miss out on a lot of the precip. Tomorrow, maybe tomorrow morning, we get some snow. Early afternoon, morning time frame there in the extreme northern upstate South Carolina up through the foothills of North Carolina, but mostly kind of dry slot problems there. And then maybe a little bit of snow as well come Thursday morning. Should get you at least past a dusting, upwards of 1 inch. And then kind of a tiny little area I have down here near Wadesboro, not far from Fayetteville. I've got about 1 to 2 inches of a sleet, kind of snow, wintry mix. In fact, this entire area in light blue and that yellowish area, that's where I think will be our battleground zone of snow, sleet, freezing rain mixing together. And then ice storm potential in this light pink. This includes Goldsboro, Fayetteville, New Bern, and kind of surrounding areas, maybe as far south and east as Lumberton. Lumberton a little bit closer to that glaze to 1/10 of an inch range. That also includes Jacksonville, Burgaw, back down towards Whiteville. Could sneak as far south and east as kind of the Florence area and maybe even northern Horry County. So that's what I came up with. Brady, what say you?
All wrong, Gerald. It's over.
Right. I know. It's over. Might as well drop out now.
No. Yeah, obviously Gerald's going to have a better idea specializing down here in this part of the country, but there's certainly I really think that boom potential for the southern part of Delmarva and even into southern Delaware specifically. I think there's some real significant boom potential there. Like the difference between some people getting like 3 and like 10 inches of snow could be very, very volatile. Could be a very, very thin line for some people. And I would even argue back into the Carolinas as well, that'd be the case. Like you could very well see maybe some of that where, Gerald drew a 2 to 4, close to a 6 to 10. Someone in that 2 to 4 could very well be picking up 6+ inches, right? It's very where if you're able to see more snow that develops on that backside there, you could very well, boom a lot more than your area. So northeastern, north central Carolina, eastern Virginia, and also into Delmarva, southern Delmarva, and that coast of southern Jersey as well could really boom. I know there's not a lot of talk about there right now, but certainly somewhere that could boom as well. And then southern DC metro, I will say, just south of DC is another area that I'm watching closely that could boom. And further northeast, you got to keep a close eye on southeastern New England as well, which we may talk about at some point. It's okay if not. I will be certainly talking about them later tonight for those that are more curious about that part of the country.
Yeah, so good stuff there. Yeah, I put boom or bust in this map for a reason because it really is going to be that way. Somewhere this forecast is going to be way wrong on the high side and somewhere else is going to be way wrong on the low side. And all I can kind of do is account for what I think will happen as being the most likely scenario. And that's what I came up with here. All right, let's go back and get another check on the HRRR. Let's see how that high resolution rapid refresh is coming in. Again, loading in right now. Let's update the map, do a little refresh, and see what we've got. So here comes the storm. Again, this was the more conservative model this afternoon. Let's see if it's beefed up at all and is a little snowier or if it's kind of sitting the same way. Yeah, a little beefier. Not too much, but a little bit beefier for sure, I would say. And then still only goes out to about overnight. So it doesn't quite get us into that early morning snow potential, but definitely shows big snow potential in Virginia. Heck, even like you said, southern Delaware trying to see some snow here for a pretty consistent amount of time overnight Wednesday into Thursday. So that'll be interesting. Definitely this kind of corridor on the map right in here. I don't know what you want to call that. I guess the Tidewater is another word for it. I think a lot of people call it that. Could get on the boom side of this. Half a foot, maybe upwards to double digits. Not out of the question. All right, let's do let's do another chat check. Everyone, let me know where you're watching from, and if you haven't already, go ahead and like the stream. Let's get the word out to everyone and subscribe if you haven't already as well, and hit the bell for the latest notifications on my channel and Brady's channel. Do it on both. Get him some subscribers. He's getting close to 1,000. Let's try to get him there. I'm getting close to 40,000, so let's try to get me there if you want, and we'll all enjoy the snow. Also, do want to say thank you to our members of Tier 2 or 3 status. If you want to become a member, hit the join button. It'll tell us live on stream, so it'll say whatever your account name is, became a member, and we'll shout you out, and we'll all throw a pizza party or something like that. In fact, I had pizza for dinner, so I already threw the pizza party, but definitely do that if you so desire. Comes with cool perks. All right, we'll let all that filter in here and go from there if I can find the find this. So I do want to talk a little bit about this actually, Brady. You know, let's actually brainstorm. How about this, everybody? Uh, let's come up with an idea. So I plan on snow chasing this tomorrow. Where should I go? Everyone in the chat type Gerald go insert whatever area you think I should go. Let's take a look at kind of a map right now. So my thinking at this moment in time, and Brady, you'll help me decide. I think the most economically kind of smart idea and easiest to get out of their idea is somewhere in here along a big road. Brady, if you were me tomorrow, driving from Charlotte up 85, where would you go to see some snow?
Yeah, I like the idea of stay on the
Big
big
snow, I should
roads.
add.
That's honestly
Yeah, big roads is definitely the goal.
big booming roads. Yeah, that's where. Personally, I think that that Franklin to Norfolk area. I know Norfolk's obviously a little farther for you, but I think that area would be very very intriguing potentially, um, and it allows you to work west potentially a little bit easier if you need to, and it'd be on your way back versus having to go farther maybe than you need to. I think that area would be pretty intriguing, just based on right now. I think that area could potentially be a good bet for 6+ inches. Very, very much so.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people kind of agreeing with you. Now, there's kind of two things I think of when I snow chase. One, obviously, I want to see a lot of snow. Two, I'm a bit of a photographer, so I'd like something pretty. And I think what I'm going to do is probably park in one of these little towns here that are along one of these bigger roads. Franklin, I think, is got potential. I think Murfreesboro, Winton has potential. I like the water that runs through Winton. That kind of produces good photography opportunities in my brain. If it was far enough south and I didn't have to worry about mixing, I think Elizabeth City would be awesome. But I worry about sleet mixing in there, which could ruin some of the higher end totals. Um, Norfolk would be awesome. Virginia Beach would be awesome. I'm trying to catch up on as much homework now as possible so I don't have to worry about if I get stuck there for a day. Then I could get back to Charlotte on Friday and be okay. But yeah, a lot of options in here. A lot of options. Brady, where do you see people say I should go?
One person said go into the ocean, so that
Go to the
was
ocean? Get a boat? That's not a
yeah,
bad idea.
yeah. Get on a boat, maybe take a cruise in the snow. GM Weather Cruises. We can start a new merch brand there, and for cruises as well. So I think that'd be something interesting. But realistically, too, what I would do, Gerald, is I would look at 700 millibars and anywhere just to the west and north. That's where I would attack. Maybe the name will show it better. I don't think
Maybe
HRR
the
gives
NAM.
you
Yeah,
it.
I think you're right. I
HRR
think we
doesn't
have the
know it.
zeros. Yeah,
The 12K does. 3K is going to be
okay.
a mess. But I would look at
Gotcha.
yeah, it will kind of show you lower levels, 700 in. I like to look for here on banding always, and then it typically on these tends to even sometimes overperform a little bit more to the north and west. So that is where I would go, not even on top of it, but just to the west and north of that 700 millibar banding. And I really like somewhere there by towards Franklin, probably in Virginia there, if I had to guess. It wouldn't be a bad idea there.
Yeah, I think you might be honest. We did have a super chat as well. Any chance New Bern area picks up any snow rather than ice? So on the backside, potentially, that's a good question. Sorry, I've got all sorts of maps going on here. Latest her, it might be getting there. Yeah, wow. Wow, check that out. Um, sorry, folks. We're all watching the same data come in at the same time. Um, so New Bern mainly ice, but notice on the backside, cold air advection works in. Check this out on the her. Wow, that's a lot of snow come Thursday morning. Now, granted, this is light snow and not a ton of lift associated with it, but that's a
Take a
big area, some
sounding.
light snow.
What do we got
Let's get a little
there?
sounding in here. Get a little sounding here.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Seen
That'll do it.
worse.
A little
Seen
drier
worse.
than you'd like to be
Little
in the
dry.
north, but it's still a pretty minor 2 point depression, meaning that red line close to the green line there. But notice you do have a little bit of lift there, especially in the lower levels of your DGZ as well. You see that
Mm-hmm.
right there at the bottom? That'd probably be a light moderate snow right there. That would produce right there. That would be good enough. And I think what you're seeing here too, Gerald. Remember now, I had a question. This is a really good segue point to both. We had a question in the chat, Gerald, and I think it's a valid one.
Okay.
What happened on models? Right?
Yeah,
We had this
I'll let
clear.
I'll let you go into that.
You've been getting it and go to five. I would recommend going to 500 millibars for this. I know we had a lot of questions. Gerald's been getting a lot of comments. What happened? We had 5 days out. We had all of these models, maybe besides the GFS and our AI models, showing this clear cut big snowstorm that was supposed to hit everybody up the East Coast. What happened? You can see here, look at our upper level energy. It's not connected enough. There's not a clean enough stream interaction. So initially, we had a sharper trough, meaning it was more put together and it sunk more further. We saw it be able to sink farther south. And we saw that upper level energy get out in front there off the ocean that you can see. That was a part of our system. So we had a big time blizzard on models that showed a ton of snow. Now what you have here is a little bit of more separation between those pieces. It's a delayed interaction. So yes, it's allowed maybe southern places to get a little bit more involved, but we have limited our high ceiling potential with this system significantly. And that upper level energy still has to move through, and that's why you're seeing still snow potential after the main system moves through. So for those that are curious, why is it still showing that snow? It's because look at all that upper level energy that still has to move through across the area. And if Gerald plays that out there just a little bit, you can kind of see as that comes through, you can reverse it and play it through. All of that still has to move through, and that's why you still have a chance to get snow at that point. So a little bit of insight, maybe too much insight, but for those curious what happened, that's a pretty simple explanation to what we saw here.
Yeah, it was just all about the timing. It always was from the beginning, and the timing still worked out great for some folks, just not for others. I had a lot of comments about Colonial Williamsburg, suggesting I should go there. I have been to Williamsburg, beautiful place, and I can only imagine it's even more beautiful in the snow. Only problem is that it's a little far north. I think might be a little far north for what I'm trying to get out of this thing. So
Yeah, and Gerald, we also had a question, or we had a comment from someone said, "I forego the criticism since you explained the change." Look at that, Gerald. We're helping you out here. We're gonna
I like
relieve some
that.
of your comments, hopefully.
We'll see. I will tell you, the other day, not yesterday. Well, yeah, yesterday morning's video was easily the most negative comments I've ever had. I should go back and look at the like to dislike ratio because probably had one of my worst ratios. Um, but I can take the heat. It's part of this career path. You gotta, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen type of thing. So back to the her real quick. Here it is, still running. Wow. Yeah, that's I mean that gets a couple hours of good snow in Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh. You got plans on Thursday? Maybe not in the Southeast, or at least in North Carolina and kind of northern South Carolina into Virginia, especially if you got a ton of snow the day before. I'll add the highs in here on Thursday, only going to be in the low 30s. So probably some melting on Thursday, then a big refreeze Thursday night, I think. After that upper level low swings through, Brady, it's going to get cold Thursday night. We could have delays, maybe even closures Friday, depending on how much of whatever it is that falls. So, if you got kids, they might not go back to school this week. We'll see. Especially in those places of Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina.
Yes, yes. It's gonna get cold after. Cold air remains in place, so the snow, even though we're starting to get to that period where the melt's a little bit easier now, once we get later into February, that cold air is still gonna be able to hold some of that snow around for those that love to see it around. And like we kind of mentioned earlier, winter's not done yet, Gerald. We're probably gonna keep having at least opportunities to keep tracking here. So cold air will continue to be on tap after this as well. Now we can't guarantee that you'll get your snowstorm you want, but we can say it's probably not even done quite after this in terms of opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, I'm going to show the her here. I want to check out snowfall totals on the latest run here in a moment, but yeah, still just watching all that snow roll through. Okay. So let's see the latest her snowfall totals for the storm. What's it got? Dun, dun, dun. There we go. Pretty good uptick for Charlotte, Greensboro, Hickory. Was about nothing there. Now it's up past an inch. Heck, again, even gets flurries all the way down to Columbia. Talking about a surprise. If Columbia gets any snow out of this, that'd be a huge win for them. It's about 3 inches in Raleigh. again, just nukes the coast. Elizabeth, if this was the forecast, I would absolutely go to Elizabeth City. I think there would be some great photography options there. And another thing I will add, Brady, if we go back to the other map, and I think you'll kind of agree with me here. Let's go to this map and move myself again to the side. Right around here. This is tomorrow evening as the sun's going down. A couple of things to note. So we've got this big broad area of low pressure kind of crossing Florida. Another kind of, we can call it a meso low even if you want. Super tight, compact low pressure right off the Outer Banks. We're going to probably get a miniature deformation band off of this thing on the northern side. And if that happens here in Elizabeth City, we could easily see blizzard-like conditions. What's happening is the wind is wrapping around this low as it's kicking up. Also, you're very flat here, so frictional force is not going to be much. And it's basically moving right along these very flat areas of northeast North Carolina, moving off the Albemarle Sound. Winds could be whipping, snow could be flying. Whiteout conditions not out of the question at all. Again, I don't think we're going to get blizzard warnings, but blizzard-like, as I'd like to say, especially for folks in North Carolina and Southeast Virginia who haven't had a really good kind of windy snowstorm in a while. This could definitely do it. What say you?
I think another to add on to your point there, Gerald, and I'll kind of go more in depth on what you were just talking about in a second, is you notice all that convection right there that is so close to being tapped into further west. I think that's the thing that stands out the most is that we're so, yes, we're in short range, but we've seen pretty significant model errors, typically in favor of more progressive so far this winter, but they can go both ways, certainly. Is that if some of that convection gets wrapped in a little bit earlier, all of a sudden further north and west here, we start talking about maybe that overperforming opportunity we were talking about, that real boom scenario. And what you'll see is and to go more in depth on what you were talking about, is that 700 millibar banding is what really is the key here. You'll see it's a little sloppy, disorganized
map on the NAM,
yeah,
700.
Show that a little bit on 700.
We'll do that temp advection because
Yeah.
I think that warm advection would show pretty good here.
Yeah. And you can kind of see what starts happening here is that 700 millibar starts coming together. And the more that's able to organize, and we talked about the upper levels, we saw it. If we can get some of those mini changes, maybe the models aren't catching on to it quite as well. For here specifically, it would make a big difference. If 700 millibars right here, meaning lower than 500, so in the mid levels of the atmosphere is where we're talking about, well above the surface, thousands of feet above the surface, that could certainly allow for some interesting snow potential, and that would allow we could see a swath then of potentially 8 to 12 inches of snow from northern the border of Virginia, North Carolina into the Delmarva, and we would see some real boom potential right there. And maybe even try sounding just north of that as well. Maybe try just north of that 700 as well. I wonder what we got here. Not as much lift. It's moving. It's about to come in. But I didn't like the saturation on that one. There we go.
Yeah. So I think what it shows a little bit that the problem is that one's a little, well, it's just a little bit below the DGZs where a lot of the lift is.
Still pretty solid, but yeah, it's probably atmosphere is still saturating at that point.
Yeah, this is kind of on the front end. Actually, this isn't even like, this is 17Z, or this is 12 p.m. So this is before the storm even really cranks up. So I think as we go here, we can get maybe like this secondary area in here has this, it's really kind of saturated a little bit. Yeah, that's better a little bit.
Yeah. That's better. That's a heavy snow sounding right there.
Yeah.
It's close. That red line is close. It's snowing.
One of the things that'll be interesting to see. Sorry, we keep cutting each other off at the same time. But so in the morning we'll have that kind of frontogenesis band Brady was talking about. That's the that's some of the lift. But if it comes too soon, we might not be able to tap into it as much if the atmosphere hasn't fully saturated. But then we get to the evening time frame, which I was showing you again on the HER. If we go back to this is right around when this sounding was taken. Now, a different model, but same general idea. Both of them have this little low pressure here. If you get this extra lift back over here where we're now saturated, this is where we could get some crazy snowfall rates. And we're talking 2 inches an hour type stuff. It would be pretty doable with this sounding. Got a good amount of lift in there, and it's very saturated. It's been saturated for a while. If the ingredients kind of line up properly, that could be something that we see.
Yeah, it certainly looks like a 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rate sounding right there. I would have to say, and even a little bit of an EML. You see that there, Gerald? A little bit of an
Oh
elevated
yeah,
mix layer.
yeah, just a little bit.
You see that sometimes in your snow samples.
Funny. All right, so what do we have to talk about still, Brady? What have we not talked about? I guess so. Yeah, we talked about the East Coast in general as this thing rides up the coast, right? I think we needed to mention that. Is there a map you want me to pull up for that?
We could we could briefly talk about Jersey maybe in southeastern New England, just a tad. We did have some questions. I did see a few. I saw a few jerseys in a couple of southeastern New Englands. We don't have to go too much because most of our people in here are not from there, but still
Yeah.
briefly.
All right, everyone. We're gonna do a very quick shift to the Northeast. Not gonna do forever on this. I didn't even see what the latest her shows up here. Not much on the her.
Cuts it off.
You want me to go back to the NAM or what map you think?
Yeah, that's fine. NAM or Euro, I think would be.
Had somebody ask about the latest her and my thoughts. Looks a little bit beefier than it did this afternoon. I think that's kind of be the trend.
Yeah, so kind of here's what we're watching. Is well, that was 18Z too. OZ hasn't came out yet. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
18Z.
at least on my.
Yeah, so here's what we're kind of watching here is at Southern. There's two areas I'm watching here for the Northeast. If you consider Jersey part of the Northeast, some people think it's more Mid-Atlantic, but I'm watching Philly southward into Eastern Jersey along the coast, and then I'm also watching basically Boston from 495 southeastward, and basically into Long Island as well here. And there's an opportunity here for really there's more time. You can see this is further out. This is nearly a couple days out still. There could be some opportunity potentially as this low pressure system really gets going here for that precip to extend back into southeastern New England, and it would allow the Cape and Islands potentially overperform potentially, and you could see at least plowable snowfall along this region, and also Long Island I would look at as well, especially the eastern end of Long Island. I would be could have some concern potentially for accumulating snow there as well, and then back onto the southeast Jersey coast in southern Jersey as well. I'm still watching that very, very closely. Jared, we see it all the time. Models just struggle with these phases here, and they can get complicated sometimes. And especially with all that upper level energy back to the north here, I still think we'll see a more extensive precip shield than maybe what's being depicted. The upper level look, like we talked about, was very impressive.
Yeah, and you can see exactly when they phase right here when these two shields of precip merge together. This model run does it right over Long Island, New Jersey, even portions of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and the Cape. But it will be interesting to see kind of how that happens for sure.
It would be strong winds too, Gerald, along if you notice
Yeah,
those
very
iso
strong offshore flow there. Yeah.
and there would be some strong winds along the Cape and Island too. So dare I say blizzard-like conditions, even though probably not a true blizzard. So maybe the blizzard does actually verify, and that would make us happy.
Yeah, it definitely was. Either way, we got saved because I said between this past weekend and this week we would get a blizzard, and we had blizzard warnings in Maryland over the weekend. So check.
Count it.
Got that.
Count it.
Got that marked off. Yeah, we're gonna have to. All right. So yeah, folks. I think anything else that we can touch on, Brady? If not, I might let everyone go, get a good night's rest before the shenanigans of tomorrow. And obviously, you have a live tonight as well, so everyone should stay up for that. Is what I should have said.
Yeah, I'll be going live 11:30. I like to go late because I can get those OZ model runs, and we can get some of that newest data for me to kind of break down and go live. I usually do model analysis live on stream. So for those that really love the meteorology, you love the weather, you love the breakdowns, you're very curious on how things are going to play out and what could change. We often take the view of, how could we get a more significant snow event a lot of times. So if you love kind of that stuff, that's what I like to do, especially Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, but for my Carolina folks too, you can come on in. I will always answer your questions, even though I do have a lot of Mid-Atlantic Northeast people, and that's why Gerald specializes for the South people, right, Gerald? At least I think so. They may not like you as much if you get it wrong, though.
Yeah,
So
that's all right. A lot of people don't like me very much, so
it's all right. I'll
I'm
always
used
like
to
you.
that at
You're
this
awesome.
point. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I like to think at least some people like me, and if you don't, then that's okay too. Like I said, you're hardly the first. So, yeah. So, quick recap again, everybody. Big snowstorm coming tomorrow. Really already happening. Coming to the east tomorrow. I will have a video tomorrow morning. Probably will drop around 8 a.m. Then I'm gonna, hypothetically speaking, hit the road up 85, and I'll be live throughout the day and evening covering the storm in the conditions somewhere in North Carolina or Virginia. I'll see where the wind takes me, and should be fun. So wish me luck, and good luck to everyone else out there. Hopefully y'all get some good snow. I appreciate you joining in tonight. Had a pretty good group, and we'll see y'all next time. All right, y'all have a good one. Thanks, Snow, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Definitely subscribe to Brady's channel as well. Don't forget to subscribe to mine if you feel ever so much to have that desire. And yeah, y'all have a good night. All right, see y'all next time.